Hi, my name is Jane Scarf, and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And I want to talk to you today about the fear-mongering that I've been hearing in the past week, that we're going to have an invasion with the UN coming in and Chinese, and they're going to lock us down with the military, and, you know, it's going to be more bizarre than we could even imagine, and nothing like this has ever happened in Canada before, but this is what's coming. And the first presentation of that was about 4 or 5 days ago, and it was an announcement that the government of Saskatchewan has put itself in martial law, and they're going to take your property and invade your privacy, and God knows what else. And, watch out, basically. This is what's coming. Like, this is the first of lots more to come. Well, that person was not spreading the truth. He was spreading something you could fertilize your garden with. This is the original order from Saskatchewan, dated March 20th, 2020. And in there, it's exactly like the one that came out September 13th. Even looks the same. And what they're freaking out about is the description of what powers the minister has under a state of emergency. This is a really old act. I forget what the year is, but it's like, not recent, nothing to do with what's going on with COVID or anything. It's not even in this decade. And it talks about evacuation. It talks about being able to enter a property without a warrant, and so on and so on. But when you read it in context of a real emergency going on, like a huge tornado or a forest fire that's going to sweep out the whole town, severe ice storms even. We had some devastating effects of the ice storm that we had here a few weeks ago. And you need that capacity to deal with that kind of emergency. And it has nothing to do with taking your property or carting you off somewhere and locking you up or whatever. It has to do with evacuating and having more power to pursue that than you would normally have. And rightly so. And what they're quoting there is from the old piece of legislation called, the Emergency Planning Act. And I should have looked up the year, but it's very old. But every one of these orders, I think there was 3 of them or 4 of them since the so-called pandemic, and they're all exactly the same, but just with a different date on the top. So this hysteria, oh my God, they're in martial law, and then we had another, don't even know what you want to call him, but somebody who's professing to spread the truth and warning us of the impending dangers that's just around the corner, is telling us that wannabe politician, somebody that ran in 1980, who won't give his name, won't give his place of location, and won't let himself be seen on camera, is saying that he talked to somebody that he can't tell you who that is, that worked for the UN, and that person in 1918 told him that in 2020 that we were going to have a pandemic, and the military is going to roll out and lock everybody down and suspend all our rights and yada, 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 yada. There is no provision in Canadian law to bring in martial law. There used to be the War Measures Act, but that was repealed in 1988 with the Emergency Act. Look in the preamble of the Emergency Act. It says in their emergency planning, the government needs to regard your Canadian Bill of Rights and your International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, and they can't abridge those rights, even in the case of a national emergency. and that replaced the War Measures Act. So where is it that they can roll out the military against us? It's not there. The military is federal. It would have to have a federal piece of legislation that could be initiated with an emergency, and that's not there. Okay, now I'm not saying that we have no problems. Like, we're deep in trouble right now, and there is a magnificent effort being made to capture this country. But it's a method. It's what they call a subversive method of capturing a country, and it takes many years. They've been at it. Trudeau Senior was at it, like with your charter, leaving an opening for the communists to blast in with Section 1 that can override your rights on the spot without even a court decision, and you have to have a constitutional challenge to get your rights back if you can by that time. But by that time, we're done. We're communist takeover. So the charter was one of the precursors to what's happening now. And then in order to be able to pull it off in total, they have to create a legal framework. And it's not like they're law-abiding and, they wouldn't break any laws. That's not the point. These people are psychopaths. They could, stick a knife in your eye and then turn around and finish eating their supper. But the fact remains, they have to do it legal in order to be able to use the police and the military against the people. But in this country, we have a plentitude of legal protections of our rights, starting with the Canadian Bill of Rights, which applies to all enforcement. So police, bylaw, public health, conservation authorities, whoever, whatever, if they're enforcing law and small laws, parking or murder charges, all the same thing. They all fall under the regulation of the the Criminal Code of Canada, and therefore are governed by the Canadian Bill of Rights. So those Bill of Rights disallow this kind of invasion that's occurring. And we have all kinds of other laws that relate to it and are based on it. Our right to privacy, our right to informed consent, our right to be treated equally and protected equally by the law. Okay, so that precludes all of this. You can't come in if you had a vax. That takes care of that. That's Section 1B of the Canadian Bill of Rights. And 1A takes care of your right to privacy and your right to informed consent. So we got it covered. They can't just bounce in here. They have to, and that's why it's been so spotty, and that's why we're recovering from stuff. Those bylaws in Ontario, had they been implemented by the police, that would have been martial law. Stopping at the side of the street, you have to stay in your house, and you can only go essential places and one time to the grocery store, all that stuff. That's martial law, but it didn't happen. It's the plan, but the plan they had didn't work. The only thing that's worked so far is masks. Quarantine didn't work. It fell apart. They got quite a dent with the lockdowns. But I think people are wiser this time, and they're going to have a strategy come next time. They don't have to let police and bylaw and public health in at all because they don't have a right of entry. So they don't know what's going on inside. They don't know how many people are in there. They don't know if they're wearing a mask, whatever. And there's all kinds of other safeguards. When public health is imposing or a regulation or bylaw or police, they have to respect all your rights. So they can't make you wear a mask. They can't make you shut down your business. They can't make you take a vaccine. It's a flagrant violation of these rights. The right to informed consent. That's a long-standing right. That's well protected. So, these fearmongers, I just wonder what their motive is. Like, why are they doing that? Are they doing it for attention, or is somebody putting them up to it? Because when people believe these things, it demoralizes us. It makes us think, we're done. Chinese are here. They own everything. There's nothing we can do. We have no rights. That's demoralization. That's one of the techniques that the communists use to take over a country. They want to destabilize as much as possible. So undermine your confidence in your police, undermine your confidence in your officials, so that things don't run well. That's destabilizing. Defund the police. That's one you've seen. And there's other versions of defund the police that don't sound exactly like that. They come from the so-called, some of the so-called leaders in the freedom movement, and they'll tell you, this is already a communist country, Canada, or Chyanada, whatever. And when they tell you that, and they tell you all your police are fascists, all your government's fascist, when they talk like that, that's defund the police. They're all fascist, the same thing. And when they tell you it's already a communist country, they're telling you you have no rights, because that's what a communist country is a country with no rights. It's a political system that doesn't accord rights to its citizens. That's about it. They have total control. Central, what did they call it? Strong central government, which is what Trudeau Sr. used to promote. He'd say he's establishing a strong central government or centralized government, which means the power rests with the government, not the people. And that's what the charter design is. The charter is designed to take a position that government gives you your rights. They're not yours at all unless the government gives them to you. And because they can give them to you, they can take them away. It's like they own them or something. And Section 1, willy-nilly, they can just wipe away all your rights, just with bylaws, rinky-dinky bylaws. And it would be supported. Rocco Galati says Section 1 would not meet the test, the Oakes test, which is the test to see if they have a good enough reason or a justified enough reason to override your rights. But Clayton Ruby says it would. The COVID measures would meet the Oakes test. In other words, it would be upheld. All this stuff would be upheld if you use the charter. If you take the government or whomever to court, the city, the province, or the federal government to court with the charter over any of these COVID things, the court would uphold it. And we have alternatives. The Canadian Bill of Rights. There's no conditions there. There's no such thing as justified reasons. There's no reasons, especially the fundamental ones. Life, liberty, security of person, and enjoyment of property, which is not even in the charter. And these rights are not to be infringed, or not to, how does that work? Life, liberty, security of person, and enjoyment of property, and not to be deprived thereof except by due process of law, which means a judicial decision. And actually, it would have to be a jury that makes the decision, because if a judge is assigned to adjudicate a case where rights are violated, that judge is not impartial, because he's appointed and he's paid for by the government. So you need a jury to do that. And so that's a pretty solid statement. Not even Parliament can override those basic ones, those fundamental ones. Some of the other ones, you can have an act of Parliament that expressly says they're going to waive something, notwithstanding the right as articulated in the Canadian Bill of Rights, but that's there. And then to deal with the other stuff, there's privacy rights, there's the criminal code. A lot of what's happening here with the vaccine passport, they're saying if you don't disclose your vaccine status, you lose your job, or you can't participate in the business, you can't use the services or the business. And in so doing, they're threatening. Threatening is a criminal offense. And it's also extortion, because they're using threats to make you do something that you don't want to do. It's also the whole concept that's going on there about vaxxed and unvaxxed. That's promoting or inciting hatred, making people afraid and angry towards anybody that hasn't had a vaccine. And they're doing it with commercials and other kinds of, methods to bring that up. We're killing Granny because we're not having a vaccine. Meanwhile, these vaccines aren't tested, so we don't know if taking one is protecting. And in fact, there's injury from the vax, a lot of injury that is not there if you get COVID. And apparently your chances of getting COVID if you take a vax is, 0.04? And if you don't take a vax, it's 0.05. So a negligible difference. So anyways, I really can't stress this enough. The method that the communists use to take over the country is destabilize and demoralize. And their favorite way to demoralize is to scare the shit out of you. Like, we've got all the power and we're going to smuck you. We're going to just bring the military and the police and whatever. And that's called a PSYOP. It's a psychological operation. It's easier to capture a people or my phone was going off. If you scare them and scare them deeply. So I would like you, each time you hear one of these scary things, analyze it. Analyze the one about the wannabe politician that ran in 1988 and didn't get in, that knows people, but he won't say his name and he won't say who he knows. And they told him, they whispered in his ear that all these things are going to happen. There's no evidence, no way to validate, verify anything. Don't go for it. And the other one, if you want to see the crap with the Saskatchewan, the quote is from, it was in every single order, so it's not new. And it's from the, what is it called? The Emergency Planning Act. It's a section out of there that they're quoting. And read it with critical thinking. It's not taking over and dragging people off and confiscating their property and whatever. They're managing severe emergency. So this and all of this stuff too, it distracts us from what we need to do. And what we need to do is learn, do the research, find out what rights you have, and find out how to assert them. For example, we're working on a method we're calling progressive notice of liability that can start a process right away of collecting a debt based on the harm being caused by masks, by forced vaccine policies, shutdowns, whatever the case might be. And I think they're going to work, and they're meant to be applied towards the person who is actually carrying out the act, like the person who's stopping you from coming in the store, the manager that's passing out your termination letter, or whomever. And we're going to collect the debt from them, which means it'll affect their credit rating. We could potentially get liens on their house if they own a house. And we do have the grounds. We have the grounds to sue them also. And if we don't have the resources to sue them, hopefully the debt will fall below $35,000, and you can do it in small claims court yourself. It was a system that was meant to be accessed directly by the individual, and you don't need a lawyer. And it's a simple process, very small risk because the costs are capped really, really low, and the total that they can get from you is 15% of what you're asking for, whereas in the Superior Court they can get back whatever they spent on their lawyer to defend themselves in the case. That's if you lose. But if the judge is doing their job properly, we will win. We do have the law on our side, big time and clear and long-standing. Lots of case law and lots of articulated statutes that defend these rights. So please don't believe that we're a communist country, and please don't believe that the military are getting cranked up to come and occupy us, like our own military. And as a matter of fact, look at the fact that 44 out of 44 regional police services in Ontario refused to do the stay-at-home orders, and they refused to smash into your house because the neighbor said there were 7 people in there instead of 5, and into your business and so on. The regional police and the RCMP in Ontario and the military in Ontario have our back. They haven't lifted so much as a finger against us. There's been a handful of psyops that were meant to make us think that the tables were turning and the police were coming against us, like the Adamson barbecue fiasco. But that was not Toronto police. That was John Tory, the mayor, and public health hiring off-duty police officers as private security. That's what that was. And that was a psyop. It was meant to scare the shit out of you. And it did scare me. I thought, oh God, now we're done if the police are going against us. But they didn't, and they're not. They have our back, and they're organizing and they're strategizing. And at the end of the day, do not participate in this. We're a communist country, Canada, and the police are all fascists and all of everything. No, don't go there. That's where they want you to go. That's their track. That's their track they're trying to put you on and keep you on. Don't go on that track. Go on this is Canada. This is a democratic country. We have rights. We have police that are supporting us and have our back. And we have a military that are supporting us and have our back. And that is the truth. And that's the truth that should be spread. And that won't make your lawn grow. That'll make us grow as a community and get stronger and more resistant to the communism. That's it for the day.